The story begins with a 58-year-old man named Inu, who had moved to Tokyo with his family, bringing all their belongings. He worked day and night to give his wife and children every comfort he could, yet none of the people around him seemed to appreciate him in the slightest. His family showed him no affection or respect, and nobody treated him kindly. Every day, Inu crammed himself onto an overfilled train, enduring shoves and elbows on his way to the office, where he was treated worse than an animal. One evening, Inu was sitting outside his house, brooding over his lonely, unhappy life, when suddenly a dog ambled up and stopped in front of him. A note was tied to the dog's collar, apparently left by the owner, stating that the dog was named Nako and ought to be looked after. Just then, Inu's wife, Johnny, stepped outside. Inu tried to tell her that this dog would now be part of their family. But before he could get a full sentence out, Johnny told him to chase the dog away and promptly went back in. The next morning, Inu visited the doctor for a checkup, only to learn he had cancer that had spread throughout his body. There was no chance of survival. He had only 3 months left to live. That night, over dinner, he announced his illness to everyone, but nobody cared enough to listen. Rather, they carried on complaining about him, ignoring the fact that he had just confessed he was dying. After that, Johnny demanded to know why the dog was still in the house, ordering him to get rid of it immediately. Tired and despondent, Inu took Nako outside. A few kilometers from home, Inu left Nako behind and hurried away before the dog could follow him. But Nako did chase after him, running as fast as it could. Eventually, Inu reached a park and thought he had left Nako behind. Glancing back, he saw the dog quietly sitting there, watching him. Tears welled up in Inu's eyes, and he apologized for abandoning Nako like that. A few moments later, he noticed a boy seated on the bench next to him. Suddenly, a brilliant light flashed across the sky, frightening Nako so badly that it dashed off. An enormous explosion followed, and Inu was caught in the blast's fury. The next morning, Inu woke up to find that his vision was perfect, even without his glasses. Looking around, he saw that Nako had waited all night for him, so he brought the dog back home. During breakfast, he drank a bowl of miso soup, which somehow made him extremely thirsty. He gulped down a large quantity of water, then headed to his room. That was when he noticed steam radiating from his hands. Alarmed, he removed his shirt, sensing that something was definitely off. Without warning, his right arm transformed into a futuristic weapon, causing all the soup inside him to come spewing out. Then upon touching his face, he felt something peculiar along his neck. He tugged at the skin there, and his entire face peeled away from his head. Beneath the skin, he saw nothing but wires. Staring into a mirror, Inu realized that both of his arms had turned into weapons. Totally overwhelmed, he didn't know how to react. Seeing him like that, Nako began barking in fright. Hearing the dog's frantic barks, Johnny came to the room, but by the time she entered, Inu's body had returned to normal. At the same time, we meet a boy named Hiro, who attended the same class as Mary, though at this point, we're not told much more about Mary. One day, Hiro went over to see his best friend, Choco. At Choco's home, Hiro hadn't been going to school, as the other kids constantly harassed him. Now he stood with Choco on the balcony, pointing his hand at a bird flying overhead, as if shooting at it. To Choco's astonishment, the bird dropped dead in midair for no apparent reason. Stunned, Choco had no idea what had just happened. Next, Hiro took Choco to a garage, where he demonstrated his powers by smashing several cars together. Removing his shirt, he displayed how his entire body could morph into a weapon. No longer an ordinary human, he declared himself a superhero. Meanwhile, Inu was still clueless about his own unique powers. He assumed the transformations had been just a dream. Things only got worse when he lost his job that same day, and now had no idea how he would pay the family's debts. Of greatest concern to him was providing for his wife and children. Walking home, Inu spotted an injured pigeon lying on the ground. He picked it up, and suddenly his mysterious power kicked in. He could sense precisely where the pigeon was hurt. Within moments, just by holding the bird, Inu healed it, and it flew away, fully recovered. At that instant, Inu realized he possessed the ability to mend wounds in others. Then he heard a woman's voice crying for help, begging a doctor to save her 10-year-old son's life. He realized the cries came from a nearby hospital, so he dashed inside. Entering a room, he found a boy named Keita lying in a coma. When Inu touched him, his system identified the problem, and he set about healing Keita. After a few seconds, Keita opened his eyes, perfectly fine. Just then, the boy's mother came in, frightened by the sight of a stranger standing next to her child. She called for the doctor, but that's when her son sat up, speaking to her. Doctors and nurses rushed in, baffled by this miracle. Meanwhile, Inu quietly slipped out, feeling a level of happiness he'd never experienced before. The following day at school, Choco was being bullied by Taekan, a rough kid, and Taekan's gang. Hiro intervened, so Taekan grabbed Hiro's collar. Hiro gripped Taekan's arm so hard that it seemed Taekan's bones might snap. Hiro insisted that Taekan apologize to Choco, then pointed a finger gun at him, saying, "Return the money you stole from Choco." Taekan muttered that he didn't have enough money on him. Sensing an impending disaster, Choco pleaded with Hiro to let Taekan go, as Choco didn't want Taekan to be killed, even though he despised him. After Hiro left the room, a girl named Shin followed him and mustered the courage to confess that she liked him. Hiro was thrilled, grateful for her feelings. Later, he called his mother, who informed him that his father was gravely ill and wanted to see him one last time. She asked Hiro to come for dinner at his father's place that evening. Hiro had always harbored resentment toward his father for abandoning him and his mother, but he decided to see the man anyway. When Hiro arrived, his father gave him money for that month's expenses. Over dinner, Hiro met his stepmother and two stepbrothers, for whom he felt no particular animosity. Still, he couldn't bring himself to forgive his father. During dessert, anger seethed inside Hiro, and he thought about pulling the trigger on his father. The stepbrothers thought it was a game, playfully miming fake gunshots, which made Hiro hesitate. A few hours later, while heading home with rage churning, Hiro barged into a neighbor's house and, without hesitation, shot the man living there. He also killed the man's wife. Around the same time, Inu was at a hospital healing children when he heard a scream from a girl. He raced over to help, entering her house to discover that she had died from a bullet wound to the head. Inu attempted to heal her anyway, but found that resurrecting the dead was beyond his powers. He moved to the next room and stumbled onto the corpses of her parents. Standing in front of him was Hiro. Realizing he had an eyewitness, Hiro had no intention of letting Inu live. He opened fire, then fled. Inu collapsed, but revived moments later, trying to chase after Hiro. By then, it was too late. With the news of this family's brutal murder spreading, every TV channel buzzed with the same story. A savage crime had been committed with a gun, yet no bullets or casings were found at the scene. Later, when Choco confronted Hiro, he asked if Hiro had anything to do with that massacre. Hiro admitted it freely and declared that he was no longer human, but God. Even so, he promised he would always protect Choco. But by now, Choco was so petrified that he begged Hiro to stay far away forever. Later, Hiro returned home to find his mother wanting him to move in with his father next month. When Hiro asked why, she revealed she was terminally ill with cancer and didn't have much time left. The revelation shook Hiro, and he embraced her, vowing he would never let her die. Meanwhile, Inu grew anxious over losing his job that same night, but in a strange twist, he found himself hearing a plea from Choco, who was calling upon God to stop Hiro from killing more people. Inu picked up Nako and flew off to the park where Choco waited. By now, Inu had resolved to use his newfound powers to protect people. When he and Choco met up, he told Choco about the night he and Hiro were both involved in that mysterious explosion. They had been on adjacent benches when the blast occurred, and both ended up with superhuman abilities. Choco then asked what Inu's weakness was, pointing out that if Inu and Hiro had the same powers, they might share the same vulnerability. Inu recalled that miso soup caused a severe reaction, his body forcibly ejecting it. Choco realized the common factor was sodium. Apparently, Inu's system couldn't handle salt. A few days passed, and Hiro escorted his mother to the hospital for a checkup. The doctor, stunned, revealed that her cancer cells had somehow vanished entirely, leaving her perfectly healthy. Overjoyed, Hiro and his mother headed home. But on the way, the police tried detaining Hiro for questioning about that family's murder. Terrified of being arrested, he fled, with officers in pursuit. In the chaos, Hiro shot 3 agents and got away. The news of his escape spread through TV broadcasts, overshadowing all else. The next day, Shin encountered Hiro on her way back from school. She invited him to her home. Shin explained that she lived only with her elderly grandmother, so he could hide there for as long as needed. Elsewhere, Mary, returning home, spotted her father with Choco at the train station. Mary asked Choco when they had met, and Choco lied, telling her, "We got to know each other playing Free Fire." Meanwhile, Hiro's mother had become the prime focus of a vicious media frenzy since her son's escape. she found herself surrounded by hundreds of reporters who unjustly blamed her for Hiro's crimes. Overwhelmed by stress, she ultimately passed away. Hiro read an online chat where people discussed the case, discovering it was a young man who had leaked the mother's home address to the reporters, receiving praise from other participants in the thread. Enraged, Hiro called the young man via video chat. The man was delighted to see him at first. Everyone had been searching high and low for Hiro. Suddenly, Hiro aimed his finger at the camera, shooting the man remotely. As the man frantically begged for mercy, Hiro continued firing until the man was dead. Then he methodically targeted every person in the chat who had cheered that man on, killing them as well. This escalated panic within Tokyo's police headquarters. That same night, Shin came to speak with Hiro, who confessed once again that he was responsible for that family's murders. Shin didn't want to believe he was capable of something so depraved. Hiro then showed her his robotic arm, even taking her flying in his arms. She shed tears for the innocent lives he had taken, but assured him she would still stand by him. When they returned to Shin's house, she got up to drink some water. Suddenly, armed agents stormed in, forcing Shin to shout for Hiro to flee. Instead, Hiro shielded Shin with his own body, dropping to the floor as bullets flew. He then whipped out his robotic arm, unleashing a devastating counterattack that killed all the agents. Once the gunfire ceased, he discovered that Shin's grandmother had been shot dead. Worse yet, Shin herself wasn't breathing, despite Hiro's effort to protect her. Heartbroken and powerless, Hiro fled. Her death fueled his wrath, driving him to seek even more vengeance. Next day, Inu asked his wife and children to remain indoors, warning them not to use any phones or computers, because Hiro was apparently capable of killing people through their screens. But as always, they ignored him, carrying on with their usual routines. Hours later, Hiro hijacked the largest video screen in the city, addressing the public about the raid on him the previous night. "The police have declared war," he said, "so I'll be the one to finish it. I won't rest until everyone in this country is dead." Right after that, he pointed at the screen and started killing pedestrians at random. Inu and Choco had been training when they heard frantic screams from the street. Inu resolved to help. He switched the giant screen away from Hiro's broadcast to a news anchor's program, only for a bullet to slam into Inu's head, seemingly killing him. Meanwhile, Mary and a few friends were wandering inside a building. Hearing about Hiro's rampage, they pulled out their phones to check the news, and Hiro began targeting them as well. At the same time, Inu hijacked the screen in turn, broadcasting a clip of Choco urging people to keep away from phones, TVs, and computer screens because Hiro could kill through them. Enraged, Hiro launched a missile at the city's largest screen, also firing multiple missiles at numerous buildings, one of which housed Mary. Right then, Inu confronted Hiro face to face, demanding he stop the slaughter. Inu explained that on the night of that explosion, when Hiro got his powers, Inu had also been there, on a bench nearby. But Hiro remained bent on destroying the country, so Inu fired at him, igniting a fierce battle. Hiro responded by unleashing his missiles on Inu. Partway through the fight, Inu heard Mary screaming for help, so he dashed off to rescue her, only for Hiro to grab him and hurl him into a news helicopter. Hiro then appeared at the chopper, tossing out the reporter and cameraman. Inu caught the cameraman by the hand just in time, preventing him from falling to his death. But Hiro killed the pilot, leaving the helicopter spinning out of control on a collision course with a building. Inu leaped to a rooftop with the cameraman, but Hiro arrived moments later, shooting the cameraman dead. Then Hiro invited Inu to join him, taking a swig of water from a bottle. Inu shot the bottle from his hand, sending it tumbling, and left a container of salted sports water at Hiro's feet. As soon as Hiro drank it, he malfunctioned. Like Inu, he was also vulnerable to sodium. But still determined, Hiro refused to give up and dragged Inu into orbit. Just as he was about to land a killing blow, his internal system started shutting down, the engine failing. Seizing his chance, Inu blasted Hiro with a missile, defeating him. Racing back to save his daughter, Inu found that she had already died. Devastated, he tried CPR on Mary, and miraculously her heart started beating again. Then he employed his healing powers to bring her back to full health. As Inu hugged her in relief, Hiro staggered in to deliver a brutal blow, knocking Inu a long distance away. Next, Hiro resumed a killing spree, eventually cornering Mary. The moment he fired at her, Inu dove between them, but Mary was shot anyway. In desperation, Inu tried reaching her before she succumbed, but Hiro slammed him repeatedly, determined to kill Mary at any cost. Over and over, Inu stood in Hiro's way, only to be beaten down. Eventually, Hiro bashed Inu's head open, revealing that Inu wasn't human at all. Then Hiro grabbed a steel rod and pummeled Inu's skull unrelentingly. Finally, he dragged Mary to a window, threatening to hurl her off. Inu begged him to spare her, but Hiro was unmoved. As Hiro released Mary, Inu summoned every last shred of strength in his body, unleashing a final strike that tore Hiro to pieces. Instantly, Inu flew at top speed and caught Mary mid-fall, saving her life. A week later, the media declared that Hiro was dead, and the case was closed. Yet the authorities recovered only a few of his remains, not his entire corpse. At Inu's house, Mary alone knew the truth about her father's nature. Meanwhile, we see that Hiro was still alive. He was preparing to leave Japan for good, but stopped first to see Choco. Choco, thrilled to find him alive, asked Hiro to play a video game one last time. But by the time Choco looked around, Hiro had vanished forever. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.